That first sip of coffee does something strange. It doesn't just wake you up, it makes the day feel possible. And somewhere along the way, we stopped calling it coffee and started calling it Joe. Why do we say, "a cup of Joe"? Join me in this video to unravel the secrets of simple things. Here's the twist. Nobody can prove one single origin story. It might trace back to a Navy band that left sailors with only coffee. Or Joe might just mean the average American, like Average Joe. Or it could come from an old slang word that got shortened over time. So let's make a quick game out of it. Before I explain anything, pick the theory you want to be true. Because by the end, you'll have a favorite. And a reason for it. I'm going to walk you through all 4 theories, the one people repeat the most, the one that feels the most intuitive, and the one linguists tend to like best. And then you can decide which story actually holds up. To see how a nickname like this is born, picture America in the early 1900s. Not espresso menus, not latte art. Just diners at 6 in the morning, factory breaks, office percolators, and a coffee pot that never really gets turned off. Coffee wasn't a hobby. It was a tool, a ritual, a small comfort that showed up every day. And when something becomes that common, it collects nicknames. So, here are the 4 roads that might have led to Joe. Navy band started Cup of Joe. Let's start with the story you'll hear repeated the most. The U.S. Navy connection. In 1914, the Secretary of the Navy, Josephus Daniels, issued an order that sailors hated. No more alcohol on Navy ships. No rum rations, no liquor, nothing. And if you've ever taken something away from a group of exhausted people, they don't just accept it, they replace it. So the story goes, when the booze disappeared, coffee took its place. And sailors, being sailors, started calling it a cup of Joe, after the man whose decision pushed them toward coffee in the first place. It's almost too perfect, isn't it? A real person, a real order, a clean cause and effect. You can picture it, early morning watch, metal cup in hand, someone muttering, "Fine, pour me a cup of Joe." But here's where language historians raise an eyebrow. Because the phrase, "cup of Joe," doesn't show up in print until the 1930s, nearly 2 decades after Daniels' ban. And when a slang term appears that long after the event it's supposedly born from, it doesn't prove the story is wrong, but it does make it suspicious. So maybe the Navy tale is a legend that spread later because it's memorable. Or maybe it helped popularize a nickname that was already floating around. Either way, it leaves us with a bigger question. If it's not tied to one specific Joe, what if Joe doesn't mean a person at all? The drink of the average Joe. Now let's move to a theory that doesn't rely on a single moment or a single person. In American English, Joe has long meant the ordinary guy, the average Joe. Not famous, not powerful, just everyone. And in the early 1900s, coffee fit that idea perfectly. This wasn't a luxury drink. It wasn't imported tea served with ceremony. Coffee was cheap, strong, and everywhere. Factory workers drank it before long shifts. Office clerks poured it between tasks. Teachers, drivers, shop owners, everyone had coffee within reach. So when people said, "a cup of Joe," it may have simply meant the drink for the average person. No politics, no Navy orders, just language doing what it often does, naming things based on who they belong to. This is why many people find this explanation so intuitive. It doesn't need a dramatic origin story. It fits the culture. But there's a downside, because while this theory feels right, it's hard to pin down. There's no clear starting point, no first printed use that says, "This is when it began." It explains why the phrase makes sense, but not how it actually formed. And that's exactly why linguists often look for something else, a trail that shows language evolving step by step. Which brings us to the explanation experts tend to like most. From Jamaach to Joe. This is the explanation linguists tend to like the most because it leaves a trail. In the early 1900s, two words dominated American coffee slang: Java and Mocha. Java came from the Indonesian island famous for its beans. Mocha traced back to a Yemeni port that once ruled the coffee trade. At some point, the two blended into a single slang word, Jamaach. Jamaach spread quietly among soldiers, workers, and travelers. It wasn't formal language. It was the kind of word you heard in barracks, on trains, and in late-night diners. And like most slang, it didn't stay intact for long. Language has a habit of collapsing words. Telephone becomes phone. Automobile becomes auto. So Jamaach began to shorten. The hard edges fell away. And what remained was something simpler, easier to say: Joe. This theory has a major advantage over the others. The timing lines up. The rise of Jamaach and the first printed appearances of Cup of Joe both land in the 1930s. No long gap, no missing decades. It doesn't rely on one person or one moment. It shows language evolving the way it usually does, slowly, casually, without anyone announcing it. That's why many experts see this as the cleanest explanation. But even here, there's a catch. Because just because a word can evolve this way doesn't mean this is the only way it did. And that leaves one final possibility, the simplest one of all. Just a nickname that stuck. The final possibility is also the simplest, and sometimes the hardest to accept. What if Joe doesn't come from a ban, or a social label, or a compressed slang word at all? What if people just started saying it? In the early 20th century, American English was full of casual nicknames. Jack, Jim, Jake, Joe. They were used for tools, jobs, drinks, even abstract ideas. These names didn't need explanations. They sounded familiar. They felt human. In diner culture, factory floors, and break rooms, language wasn't designed to be precise. It was designed to be easy. So calling coffee Joe may have been nothing more than that. A short, friendly word that felt right in the mouth and right in the moment. No controversy, no timeline to defend, no linguistic puzzle to solve. Just a nickname that spread, because enough people liked the way it sounded. And if that's true, it changes how we look at the question entirely, because it means the real mystery isn't where Cup of Joe came from, but why it stayed. Why Cup of Joe survived? Because Cup of Joe doesn't sound fancy. It doesn't try to impress anyone. It sounds warm, casual, familiar. It's the kind of phrase you'd hear in a diner at 6 in the morning, said without thinking, by someone who just needs the day to start. And that's the key. For most of its history, coffee wasn't a craft. It wasn't an identity. It was comfort. It was what workers drank before long shifts, what writers poured during late nights, what people held in their hands during quiet moments when nobody was performing for anyone else. Cup of Joe carries that feeling, even today, when coffee culture is full of espresso shots, pour-overs, and single-origin beans. The nickname still works, because it belongs to a simpler version of coffee, one that wasn't about taste notes or techniques, just waking up, just getting through the day. That's why the phrase survived every trend that came after it, not because it was precise, but because it was human. And when a word feels human enough, it doesn't need protecting. Maybe the real lesson here isn't about coffee at all. It's about the quiet things that carry us through ordinary days, the habits we repeat without thinking, the small comforts we reach for when we're tired, uncertain, or simply trying to get started. Cup of Joe doesn't survive because it has a perfect origin story. It survives because it shows up in early mornings, long shifts, and moments when life feels heavier than usual. And maybe that's something worth remembering. Not everything meaningful in our lives needs a clear beginning or a clean explanation. Some things matter simply because they've been there for us, again and again. In a world that keeps asking us to optimize, upgrade, and prove ourselves, there's quiet strength in holding on to something simple, something familiar, something that feels like home. Sometimes, that's all we need to keep going. So where does that leave us? There isn't one single answer, and that's the honest truth. The Navy story is memorable. The average Joe theory feels natural. The Jamaach explanation leaves the cleanest linguistic trail. And the nickname theory reminds us that language doesn't always need a reason. Each one explains a different part of how Cup of Joe could have been born. But maybe that's the point. Some phrases don't come from one moment in history. They grow slowly, from habits, from people, from everyday life. So here's the real question. Which story convinced you the most? And when you reach for coffee tomorrow morning, what do you call it? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy uncovering the stories hidden inside simple things, there's plenty more waiting for you. Our team uses publicly available online sources and AI-assisted research tools to create this video. We strive for accuracy, but errors or omissions may still occur. So please view this content for entertainment purposes only and use your own judgment when considering any information presented. Nothing here is intended as professional, legal, medical, financial, or safety advice, nor as encouragement for risky or illegal actions. We do not promote hate, harassment, violence, or misleading information, and we work to comply with YouTube's community guidelines, terms of service, copyright, and fair use rules, and all applicable laws. If you believe any part of this video infringes your rights or violates YouTube policy, please contact us.